JEM is my name, no one else is the same. JEM is my name. JEM.
JEM and the Holograms has many fans. I am one of them. And one of those fans, who is not me, wrote a fan comic, as some fans are wont to do. And she was nice enough to send me a copy. So, I read it, and now I'm going to talk about it. So, this is a Stingers one-shot, and quite a lengthy one, too. This is like 60, 70 pages. Front and back, so it's like maybe 35 pages or something like that. But pretty beefy little book here. I was expecting another, 22 to 25 page issue. No, this is supersize. So, damn near a trade paperback. So this is a Stingers one-shot. It's called Are You Feelin' All Right? Which fans of the show will recognize that as the title of one of their songs. Which, according to this comic, is an in-universe song. It's part of their discography. So this is written by Ilana Pernica, who, if you are in the JEM fan community, if you've ever been to JEM Con, you've probably run across her. And the art is by Emma Kate Ramsey, who is an artist, who, small world, I actually commissioned to do a bit of pizzazz art for me for the Fashion Police video that my sister and I did for JEM the Holograms some time ago. And she was recommended to me by Lindy Lee, who, if you watch our Extra Life marathons, you know who that is. She does the art for the art raffle we've been doing the last few years. And I commissioned her to do the art for the Movie Mandates podcast that my sister and I does, that we do. So, small world. So, as you might be able to tell from the title, this book is about Riot getting sick and Minx and Rapture taking care of him. And you might think, okay, why is that 70 pages long? Can that kind of a story support that? Well, you see, he gets really sick. And broadly, what this story is about is it's about Riot, Rapture, and Minx as a group, as a family unit, and how close and bonded they are. And it puts these characters in a position where one of them is at their absolute worst. And Riot, if you've seen the show, is a braggart and blowhard and not really the nicest guy ever. I mean, charming in his own way, but you can see how people would react. Oh man, that is a suave son of a gun. And other people going like, what a jerk, but he's extraordinarily sick. He feels terrible. He's got a show in a couple of days. He runs Stingers. This is the part of the show where they took over Misfits Music and turned it to Stingers Sound. So he's running that operation. He's, doing the budgeting for upcoming costuming. He's on several conference calls and meetings, setting up music videos, and he's running himself ragged. Plus, he has to rehearse with his band. He's got a Starlight Foundation show that he's guesting on in the next couple of days, and JEM's gonna be there. Swoon. So he's got a lot on his plate. He's sick, which means he might not be able to make the concert, might not be able to swoon JEM. He can't do any work. So that is extraordinarily frustrating for anyone, and especially for someone like Riot, who's a control freak, a person who is used to everyone giving him exactly what he wants. Losing that control is intolerable to him. Being at the mercy of others is terrible. So this comic puts Riot in the worst position he could be in. It puts him at his lowest and examines how these characters who genuinely love each other interact with each other when they're trying to take care of each other and one of them's being a putz. Can you keep yourself from being a putz in the face of someone you love being a putz back? It's really hard. And sometimes these characters screw it up and say things that are particularly mean and storm off. But at the end of the day, it's these trials and tribulations that, though we may stumble and fall flat on our asses at times, we oftentimes will come out closer on the end. So that's broadly the thematic arc of this whole thing. So let's dig in and take a little bit of a closer look. First of all, Emma's art is really nice. It's got a really unique texture to it. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask her about it exactly what her process is here, but it kind of the texture to the coloring kind of reminds me of like sidewalk chalk, just from the texture of it. I really like her art here. I've commissioned her to do some stuff. She can be very show accurate with her character models. These are not show accurate. Not that she's off model, she's just using her own style. They're recognizable as the characters they are, but she's drawing them in her own style, which is, it's expressive and it's really quite lovely. She's got a really nice knack for posing, I particularly, and facial expressions. I'll get to a couple of my favorite examples here in a sec. Let me see if I can find my... Rapture has my favorite pose in here. Oh, here it is. They're babying Riot, giving him chicken soup and stuff, and he rolls over and pouts. He's like, "I'm just gonna go to sleep." Says, "I just want some. What can we get you? I just want some peace and quiet." And Rapture has this wonderful pose. We're just gonna go over there, and her facial expression is just absolutely wonderful. I love that. So we start out with showing that Riot is running the company, and he's working himself to the bone. He's been working all day. It's like 8 o'clock at night. He's late for rehearsal, which was at 8 o'clock. So he shows up to Rapture and Minx. They start rehearsing, and this is like 3 pages in, but this is when I knew we were into something pretty special here. This panel here, where they're just playing their instruments, and it's represented by a musical note highway in the back, and suddenly Rapture, they're like dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum, and suddenly Rapture opens her eyes with a little question mark, and then Minx does the same thing, and they're looking at each other like this, and I bust out laughing because I've been there. Now I'm a singer, not I can play the keyboards, but I'm not in a band, but I have been in singing groups, and that is the exact facial expression that happens when you hear something wrong. Everything's going well. The musical soundscape is gorgeous. And then something. Oh my God, what is that? It's like suddenly you smell a fart in an enclosed space. You're just like, this elevator ride is... Oh my God, what is that? Who did that? It's... And what's going on, of course, is, Riot is sick, and he's singing flat or playing poorly, and I just love the way that was represented. So very, very funny. So they do some tarot readings, and it's like, yeah, you're getting a cold. Go home, and because we've got a meeting in the morning. So he goes home, and another thing that I think is very funny is Riot is dressed with his shirt open. He's doing the manly chest cleavage thing, and he goes home and he puts on his sleeping wear, which is also unbuttoned to his sternum. But what I thought was a particularly nice touch is he wakes up, he's feeling like garbage, so he goes in with like jeans and a turtleneck. Not just buttoned up shirt, like full on turtleneck sweater. I think that's a really wonderful indication of, oh my, no chest cleavage? Something's very wrong here. Also, I've talked a lot about Emma's art. Ilana's writing, she does a really nice job of very often perfectly, in my humble opinion, capturing the voices of these characters. And I think this is my favorite passage. This is Riot at a conference. They're talking about investors into a music video or something like that. And he says, after careful consideration, you have all been expertly chosen to have the honor of working on the Stinger's next video. I'm sure it goes without saying that you are all humbled by this opportunity. You know, I'm like, yeah, that's Riot. We're doing you a favor by letting you bask in our glory and give us money so that we can do stuff. Riot was also polite enough to sneeze into, the crook of his arm, so very nice. So they get through the meeting, and he's still sick, so he goes home. And the girls decide to come to his apartment to make him feel better. And they show up dressed in sexy nurse outfits. And the low-angle way they're introduced had me thinking, oh my, what am I getting into here? Did this go straight from fan fiction to slash fiction? No, we didn't. What they're doing is they say, he says, what are you two wearing? And she says, don't you remember we wore them on our last tour for the song Are You Feeling Alright, which was a song from the show, and as I said, a part of their discography. So apparently they had fun nurse outfits, which are the Stinger's black and yellow. She says, we thought they would be perfect. And I was like, okay, yeah, dodged a bullet there. It's not slash fiction. These two just... I'm like, you know what? I completely buy that from Rapture and Minx. I completely buy them going like, okay, Riot is super sick, so we're gonna go bring him, a dozen boxes of tissues and chicken soup and, this horrible vial of medicine that I got from my aunt who claims mystical powers. We should wear our sexy nurse uniforms from the Are You Feeling Alright song. It's like, yes, we should. That would be amazing. So, yeah, I totally buy them doing that. So we've got a lot of shenanigans that happen throughout this very long episode, and we get to an insight into the interpersonal relationships between the various characters and how they interact with each other, especially during high-stress situations. Riot vacillates, as can often happen with someone who's super sick, just swings wildly back and forth between being depressed, being miserable, being angry, being snotty, but both, in attitude and literally, being receptive to someone taking care of him, being resentful of someone taking care of him, and he just turns on a dime, which is not typically his character, but definitely something that can happen with someone who's sick. And the girls have different ways of dealing with that. At some point, Rapture is sick of his sick. Because he does a thing where it's like, have you eaten anything today? No. It's like, I'll make you some chicken soup. All right. I go to the kitchen and make some chicken soup and bring it. It's like, here's chicken soup. I don't want it. Stuff like that. Also, Minx bought him a little bee plushie because they're the Stingers. Aw, it's adorable. So the phone rings. So Rapture's pissy with him at this point. The phone rings. She picks it up because he's lost his voice. He can't talk. So she picks up the phone, and it's like, "Oh, hi, Jem. Yes. Oh, Riot can't come to the phone right now. So sorry." And Riot's like, "Give me the phone." And so she hangs up, and she says, "Oh, that was Jem. She asked me to tell you that she called. Okay, bye." And she ends up leaving because Riot gets snotty with her about, your soup wasn't even that good. It was tolerable. And she's like, all right, well, he sneezes and she says, F you, instead of bless you. There is small writing critique. Riot does at one point, Minx is there, like she's going to feed him. He goes, I'm not a fucking infant, Ingrid. That feels kind of out of place, but the F you instead of bless you, that's line writing, but that one was clever enough that felt in universe. Of course, as a fan fiction, you can do whatever you want with the characters. If the characters in your interpretation of the universe speak a bit more, shall we say, informally than they do on the show, perfectly fine. But that's the only instance I think of a curse, and it just kind of comes out of nowhere. On the other hand, that may be the intention. That, it's like, I'm not a fucking child, Ingrid, calling her by her given name instead of her stage name. And the next panels are Minx. It's a contrast between the way Rapture reacts to Riot being an ass and the way Minx reacts to it. So, in some manner I find it kind of off-putting, but I also understand why Ilana wrote it that way. So your mileage may vary. So Rapture eventually just leaves. She's like, I'm out. I am taking my stage nurse duds, and I'm leaving Minx behind, who stays the night in the guest bedroom to take care of Riot. Oh, there's actually a really fun bit where Riot's sleeping and they're watching MTV or something, or Lindsay's show. Where is it? Which I thought was a nice touch, if I can find it. That's the hard part, is I'm flipping through a million pages here. I could edit this, and cut out the bits where I'm flipping through, or I could make you sit there and watch the entire thing. But anyway, so Minx and Rapture are dancing to Lindsay video countdown, and we've got on the telly Vicky Sue Robinson, which, if I'm remembering correctly, is the singing voice of, I think, both Minx and Rapture for the show, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm sure if I am, you'll correct me, and you'll have to, because I'm not going to look this up. So that's a fun touch. All right, let me levy a few major criticisms I have with this work as a whole, because I'm reminded of it. This panel with Vicky Sue Robinson, the vocals of her song are written in the background, floating through the air. See, this is the problem. I can barely read it. It's just the wrong color on the wrong background. And that is a problem a few times throughout this book. For example, they make a joke about, I need a little bell to ring to get you, and Minx actually gets him a little bell, but it's so small in the frame that I didn't notice it until they referenced it later, and I said, well, where'd the bell come from? And I had to back up a couple pages and go, oh, she had a bell. It says tinkle tinkle, ringy ringy. There, I just completely missed it. Also, one of my biggest issues with this, lettering wise, is the font, the size of the the lettering, it changes immensely page to page. Like here's the first page. We've got probably even too big to the point where it feels like this art was meant to be smaller and was blown up. And then, in the next couple of pages, we get much more average size and perfectly readable. But then another page, we get to a lot of dialogue with a size that is so small, it's genuinely really hard to read. That was my biggest complaint about this whole book, is a lot of the dialogue is just extraordinarily small and hard to read. Which also brings me to a writing critique, in that I think there's too much dialogue. I think a lot of the individual statements by the characters needs to be reduced a bit. Both for pacing and flow reasons, but also page space. Another critique I'd levy is there is, in my humble and often wrong opinion, an over-reliance on narration boxes. One thing I like is it's clear what is dialogue and what is a narration box, so good job there. But for me personally, I think that if something can be communicated just as clearly through character dialogue, external or internal, or the art itself, via character posing, action, facial expression, or a combination of the two, that's what I would recommend going for. I think too often some of the narration in this title could have easily been handled with character dialogue and or art. Not always. There are a few instances where I was thinking about them, going like, how would that be done through dialogue or art? I'm like, yeah, that's probably. There are several places where it's like, yeah, I'd agree that probably a narration box is a good way to handle this. But yeah, for the most part, I think. I think a bit of an over-reliance on the narration boxes for storytelling. I think your Ilana's writing and Emma's art is strong enough that it doesn't need to rely on exposition stuffed into narration boxes. So something to consider for the future, or completely disregard. So this ends with we find out that Rapture ends up getting sick, because it's hard to spend time with sick people and not get sick yourself. And it turns out that was JEM on the phone. If you know Rapture from the cartoon, she lies all the time. So especially with her glorious facial expressions, like, oh, hi, JEM. I thought she was just bullshitting about JEM being on the phone. No, that was actually JEM on the phone. She was lying about what JEM said. JEM said she was sick and was calling all of the acts to let them know that she wouldn't be there. But Rapture failed to mention that little tidbit to Riot for two reasons. Partially, yes, because she was pissed at him, but also partially because she knew that JEM was a big motivation for him. And if he didn't have that particular carrot on the end of the stick, he would be less likely to do what he needed to do to get well and do the show. So she was being a bit of a jackass, but she was also thinking about Riot and the Stingers in general. And Riot and Minx and Rapture reconcile around that fact at the end of the story. So overall, it's a fun read. There's a lot of I think it's the individual. There are just a metric ton of individual moments that really sing. I think the area I talked about the narration boxes, but I think just generally making the dialogue rely less on narration boxes. Cut down on the dialogue a little bit, do some judicious editing, cull that stuff back. Gets a little long-winded at times, which will help the overall flow and pacing. Rely on the strength of your writing and your artist, because both of you are talented, and I think I think this is a really great start. So congratulations on actually, publishing a book. Well done, and getting it out there. And I hope you get to do more fun collabs like this. This was an entertaining read. So, Ilana, thanks for sending this to me. I hope you found my commentary at least interesting, even laughable. That would be fine. So, this concludes this run of JEM reviews. I don't have any more comics or anything to review, but it's been a fun couple of months digging through the comics and ultimately a fan comic. So thank you all for going on this journey with me, and happy JEM and the Holograms to you all.